Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The New Left. Uh, beyond my side, on my side is Felice. Underneath me is ADC, and we have a special guest today with us. If we want to introduce her, here we have Delilah. Um, Delilah, you've been on our show a couple of times on the People's Voice Network, but for those who are just tuning in for the first time, why don't you introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Delilah Barrios. I'm the Green Party governor candidate for Texas. And I been a medical worker for a really long time. And, I'm an activist and an organizer and an artist. And so, yeah, I threw my hat in because things were looking bleak for, for us down here. So I figured I'd try.
Well,
That's
yeah,
me.
that's you. That's you. Sounds like you're pretty busy. Sounds like you've got got your hours marked out for the day.
There's some things going on. Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I'm glad we had fun last time.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're going to be talking about for this stream is so Camp Dada happened this past weekend during Labor Day
Mm.
weekend, and Delilah was one of the people who actually went to Camp Dada. So we figured this would be a perfect time to hear from Delilah, kind of what Camp Dada, what happened at Camp Dada, what were some of the key takeaways at Camp Dada, and then going from there. So yeah, Ludin, if you want to just sort of get the Camp Dada page going on, but I guess we'll just first start with so maybe Delilah, if you want to just sum up for people who are not familiar with Camp Dada, what Camp Dada, what was about, what was the goal, what was the purpose of the retreat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, uh, it's been a really hard few years, I think, for everybody. And I think that a lot of organizers and activists are finding is that once electoral politics gets involved, sometimes a movement momentum dies down. And this time that we're all experiencing collectively is the best time for people to come together and work together and learn how to work together and share their knowledge and their skills and really be about solidarity and coming up with solutions that we can all use in our ways to make a difference. All the puppies. Yeah, that one. Okay, so those two of them are Lucy's dogs, and the black one is Kombucha. That's Streya's dog, and we hung out. I was like, "You're coming with me, pup." It was cute. It was fun. Yeah, so like we did, Lewis on the. I don't remember the name of the flute. He's gonna feel so offended. I don't remember the name of that flute, but I know it was a flute, and I know that he was playing it when I showed up. And he was like, "You're different than what I expected." And I was like, "Cool." I don't know what you expected, but it was fun. Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun too. But we did do some things. I personally am very like I'm a natural at the agitation thing. So I feel like people were just like, and I'm like, "What? You want to go?" And then they were like, "No." so so that was kind of fun. Yeah, so the yoga thing, right? We went out there and I guess they had these like platforms, wooden platforms kind of on the edge of like the hill overlooking, the ocean. And some of us were like sitting on it, and some lady was just like upset that we were there and that those little spots weren't for us. And also we didn't say we were going to be doing a class or something like that. And we were just like, all right, like, chill out. And yeah, they're like, you can't go to the beach. And I was like, we're going to the fucking beach. Like now, especially, we're walking down there because this person's all up in her feelings. And that's just, so we did that. And that was fun too. But, you know, for the most part, I behaved myself. And I think everybody really learned a lot from everybody, and was like, it was a really good bonding experience. You know, I don't think I've had that kind of experience in a while. It's really nice. Yeah, that was like our community table, right? Like we ate our meals there together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, we all cooked and took our share. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's very kombucha. Yeah, I mean, what other questions do you have for me? Like, what are you? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
ADC Felice, do you have any sort of questions for Delilah?
Hi,
I
Felice.
do. Hey, uh, I was actually wondering, what was like one thing you learned while you were there? Like maybe like the top thing that you learned.
I think just sharing people's like experiences helped me learn a lot about, because my regionally I come from a different place than a lot of other people that are from there. You know what I'm saying? So it was really interesting for me to hear like some of the situations that are harder for people living in like a tiny apartment in like New York versus like, you know, somebody who lives like really close, you know, to like, it's always warm here, like it's good place to grow things, and like uh just kind of addressing the regional struggles a bit. That was really helpful for me to learn. I think also, yeah, just practical skill shares everywhere. Like, I don't know, like there was this fancy way to get into a hammock and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was a really communal, like, shared thing. Like sometimes we'd go off into groups and we'd like have discussion, and then sometimes, you know, like we'd pick up shifts, like helping clean up and doing things like that. So we went hiking, we went foraging. That was neat. We got to go forage. So again, like a regional thing, like we found what types of mushrooms grow out there and what types of like flowers are good for what in that area. So that was really cool. We did do foraging, and that was fun because, you know, I'm from Texas, so I'm like, I kind of know some of those things, and it like some of the things are similar but different. And anyway, I don't know. Like I feel like I learned a lot, you know, just about people and how well we can do when we have common goals, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was really good. I think more people should do it, you know. Get out there.
Definitely.
ADC, any?
Yeah, so I'm glad like all the feedback we're seeing and all the response has been positive. Is this something like I know there's a lot of people talking about like the left is in shambles and what are we going to do? How are we all going to come together with this sort of event? Do you actually have hope? I guess would be the not the Obama hope, but real hope in regards to all of us coming together for the cause. Like, was this something that helped you? Because I know you've talked about it, we've all talked about it, that we're all getting burnt out. Was this something that was more of a way for you to feel better about where we're going?
Okay, so, you know, sleeping outside is nice, but I think after a period of time, you're like, I think I would rather, you know what I'm saying? So and we did a lot of physical work, a lot of like actual like shared labor, which was good because like my job is labor intensive, so it's easy for me to fall into that kind of stuff. But and so part of it was work, right? Like we went there to do something important. So do I feel uplifted by my experience? Yes, I do. And I think that that's why we need to do more of that, because honestly, and it was really hard being like, I think I'm the only politician that went there, and I was like, there's a lot of things I'm going to say that you're going to expect me not to say, and I'm just like, you don't owe me anything, right? I'm here just like everybody else is. It's not like that at all. And I kept having to be like, yeah, I really think that you should strategize as much as possible outside electoral politics. And I say that unironically as a politician, because like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have to, I think part of my campaign and part of what I'm trying to do as an individual is like transform the helplessness that people feel into something productive. And so when you have shared goals, you don't have to take a project on by yourself. You know, you've got other people involved and invested. And like, so key takeaway is like, you don't have to love every single person that you are working with to get something good and beautiful done. So yeah, I mean, I do feel really positive about the experience. I think that we all have to learn to connect as humans to be able to be effective at whatever we're trying to do.
I know that one of the, reasons why, at least from my understanding, that it was in the Hamptons was because you saw it as almost an opportunity to connect with some of the community there, because obviously the people who work in the Hamptons, right, aren't rich, right? It's the people who have their vacation homes there. And I think, to my understanding, it was also an attempt to kind of bring some awareness to people who are living in their bubble as to, what's going on right in this country.
Yeah.
And so curious to hear what you did in result. Were you able to kind of do things in regards to that, right? Were you able to connect with other people in the community? And if so, what was that like, and what did you do?
So we went to the beach one day to just kind of like try and get some relaxation in, and these folks caught some baby sharks, 2 of them actually, young sharks, I should say, like very juveniles, and everybody, these people started doing that thing, right, where they're like, oh, let's just watch this animal suffocate because I want to get a picture for the gram. And I was like, no. I was like yelling, I don't know how far away, but I was like, put it back, like screaming, and people were just all like, you know what I mean? So, and they put them back and it was fine. But if, again, this is my natural, I'm happy to contribute wherever I can. Agitation is happening. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm very skilled at it. Takes no effort at all on my part. So yes, like we did different things. Like we went into a store, and there, like, I think there was like one place that had like Confederate flags, and I made it a goal to stare at everybody in the eyeballs the whole time I was shopping, because like it's an intimidation tactic and people don't like it, and depending on how they react to that will tell me a lot about you. And so I did do things like that, and I think honestly, the group as a whole was far more peaceful than me, the Green Party candidate. I don't know what that says about any of it. So, like, everybody was like happy and dancing and singing and getting along, and I was just like, hey, put that fucking shark back, like, just and it's weird because like my instincts are a little bit different, depending on, I wasn't raised the same way as like everybody else was, but I think we all had, similar experiences that we could kind of like, I guess grow from, like kind of like reach community with, oh my God. And then I got to see Stabby and I was like, ah, like, so it was probably just so much. Like, I'm sure people that heard it were like, okay, what's all that about? But I was just so happy to see her. Like, all these people I've worked with in this space, and I haven't had a chance to work with on the ground. And so that was really good. And I feel very, very positive and, proud about what we did. Honored, I guess. Because awesome. I know what we're going to talk about next, and I don't.
Yeah, definitely not as light of a topic.
Not honored at
Uh-uh.
all. Yeah.
No.
Right.
No, and I think Lucy got a ticket, and I was like, "What is that about?" It was just truly
It's the wrong person to
this
give
guy.
a ticket to.
I met one of the nicer workers at the place, and he's like, I had this hat that I was wearing because it was like, you know, I wear a hat when I'm outside a lot, and he's like, "What? You can't wear that in here," and I was like, I mean, why? He's just like, "You can't bring any class into a joint like this," and I'm just like, "Who are you? What's happening?" And it was just really funny. And then he looked at my ID and he's like, "Oh, that explains it." You're from Texas. I was like, I want to have a longer conversation here, but I couldn't, you know. I was late for yoga actually at that moment, so you know, it was I don't know. It was fun. I think we had a good time, and I think we got some things done, and everybody's posting QR codes, and we wrote down facts about like how capitalism is killing people, and just a little bit of awareness, and like all the things that you need for like, you know, to make a difference. We're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. So,
Transition.
yeah, transition is great, but
I don't know how you could smoothly do that.
We're gonna talk about assholes next. Oh, sorry.
Can't
did I
be
break the surprise?
the complete opposite.
So
Yeah.
Luden, if you would just, are you able to zoom in a little bit? Let's see. So this was an interesting tweet from Blue Moon that I wanted to just get your thoughts on before we move on to some fun topics. So, all right, I'm going to try and read this. It's still a little, actually here. This is what I'll do. I'll do this. All right, cool. I got it. Thanks, Luden. Back home from Camp Dada. This is Blue Moon tweeting this. Definitely surpassed expectation, is making me rethink how establishment uses Twitter for division and whether or how much to strategically use social media. More in-person interaction is needed, so I hope other people will step up to plan events. So I'm just curious to get your take on this, Delilah, in terms of do you agree with this statement? And if so, what do you think are better, like I shouldn't say better, but maybe alternative ways that we could be organizing other than on Twitter? Because at least on my, I've been seeing lately, I feel like these past couple weeks have Twitter has especially been very toxic on many different levels.
It's always like that around, you know, the election. So.
Right. That's
it's
true.
Like he just disgust with like us as a species, I think.
Yeah. So yeah. What would you say are like other ways that we could try normalizing in terms of organizing outside of social media?
Again, yeah, I mean, I agree with what she said, and I think that it is really important to do that in-person organizing. I also want to stress that just like organizing doesn't have to be, again, like strictly a political thing. I think people get kind of amped up, like, we're going to make change through this like avatar or whatever. And it's like, no, you could do that on your own. You don't even need them to do something effective. And I think part of that is really building up your group, your community, right? Like everybody needs to have their own close by community. And honestly, we're gonna try and do like a Skillshare later, but I didn't want to like. I think planning for disaster bags is important, right? Because like we're living in a climate crisis, and you don't fucking know when it's gonna flood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one of those things is like finding your network, right? Like I think everybody should have like 5 people that they feel very comfortable with. Like they would invite them over for dinner. They're people they, you know, would welcome, you know, opening their mind to, right? Even if you're like, I would never get along with that person. So some of that outreach that needs to be done has to happen directly where you are, because that would make you better and more effective at organizing outward from that space, right? Because you have that sense of community, that sense of belonging. And one of the things that people struggle with is really not having a sense of belonging. And I think obviously we're all a bit conditioned by what we're exposed to. We were like, Twitter is toxic sometimes, but we wouldn't be having this conversation without it. So, you can't limit it by just the bad experiences. But yeah, it's really, it has to start with your I think, organizing with the public local libraries and like the food banks and things like that is really good. And I know everybody's busy. Like, I know everybody has a schedule and they work and they're, but honestly, it's probably one of the better things that you can do for yourself as a human being, because we're supposed to help each other, and you really, if you want to be a happy person, you have to understand and experience gratitude, and you need to be humble. So, I mean, that's really part of it. Like, that's really all of it, actually.
I completely agree, because I know you're from Texas. I'm from South Carolina. And that's the only way you can talk to people with differing views than you, is you have to be humble and come into it with, just kindness rather than trying to belittle someone. And I think that's even, the left needs to learn that a little bit more. I think that's probably a lot of the toxicity that happens on Twitter and everything. But it is good to also see the bad so we know how not to conduct ourselves. And you can't have good without bad. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was like, it's weird. I was just talking to somebody earlier today about how, like, I think liberals are way worse to deal with than conservatives, because, and it's crazy, right? Because, like, they're like, I have a moral high ground because, I vote blue or whatever. And you're like, you're such a pain in the ass, though, because like, I'm just doing my own thing. Like, I get hate mail from conservatives because they're like, you hate babies, and I'm like, no, I help save babies.
Hate you?
So,
I mean, yeah.
Right. But I mean, liberals and like the people who are just like in the cult are just like, they want to like break you down and make you feel like you're nothing. And it's like, why are we giving them any of our energy or space? You know what I'm saying? Like, half the people on Twitter arguing against something fucking like basic and like normal that makes sense, like being a fucking humanitarian, is from a place of privilege. And once you realize that they're coming from that place of privilege, you start to understand, oh, you're like this because you're quite comfortable. You don't know what it's like. Mm-hmm. I can't make that happen, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to, you know what I'm saying, to be like, so, and on some respect, like, I don't have that compassion. Like, I don't wish ill on anyone, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give them my energy when I don't want to. So, I mean, you got to pick and choose your battles. So.
I mean, I think the thing that's always like frustrating with liberals is they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like we condemn racism. Oh, I'm so sad the Queen died.
Oh, and can we get more cops, please? I'm scared. We need more police.
Yeah,
this is a crime.
The difference is
housing is the solution. Living 100%. Wages is the solution. Medicare for all is the solution. We have all of the everything we need for solution. My dog is sabotaging me right now, and I'm really sorry.
No worries.
Okay. She's trying to fit somewhere she does not need to be.
We have friendly fascism. That's basically what I see a liberal as, a friendly fascist compared to an outward, ugly, mean fascist. So you've got two fascist parties, or like we've got the duopoly, so both of them are fascist. So that's why I think more people are leaning towards you and a Matthew and all these other yes, you're under the Green Party banner, and yes, you are running as Green Party, but it's more, I always tell people when they're saying, well, what do you think about that? Number one, I'm in Canada, so I can't vote. But number two, the fact is you guys are more independent, and it's that third party.
Yeah.
Don't want to get into the third party, because then we get into the bullshit about, oh, third parties don't work and you need to vote the Progressive Democrat. No, you don't. You need to vote someone who's going to actually go in and institute change. So
you need to use your leverage while you have it. I try not to harp on that, right? Because I don't want to be like, yeah, like you've got to do. I can't, like, that's not okay for me to do. But on the other hand, like, you really should use your leverage while you have it. Because honestly, people are like, in 30 years, and I'm like, how? Tell me how we're going to get to 30 years, because it doesn't look like we are if nobody's paying attention to what's happening. And that's why I do actually benefit from being in the Green parties, because I have to be very independent, and that's both a curse and a blessing, because I don't have a whole lot of support, like, institutionally. However, I don't have a lot of people trying to tell me what to do or what to say. Like, I'd listen anyway, but I mean, it's part of that's part of the whole thing. Like, I'm here for the reasons that I need to be here, and the people that support me are there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't all love me, but they can agree on some core values, which unites us, in a way. So yeah, Green. I think there's a path there. I do think we desperately need more numbers, though, and we've had a lot of disruption in our party. I think most Greens could teach somebody a lesson about disruption and what they've experienced, because it's pretty intense, I'll say.
What a transition from disruption. I think we can talk about topic 2, because that's nothing but disruption.
Yeah, exactly. So the second topic we're going to be talking about is how there were basically the names of hundreds of U.S. law enforcement officials that their memberships were leaked. According to the
Thanks,
ADL.
whoever's wife probably did that.
Yeah, right.
I hope you get an upgrade.
The membership is around 38,000 people. Huh?
Oh, I'm just listening. Go ahead.
Yeah. And 370 people are believed to be currently working in law enforcement. 80 people who were running or in public office as of early August. So that's always comforting.
Joe Biden.
I mean, sometimes he talks like he's one. So
you noticed.
So, Ludin, if you could just scroll down for a second, just because it gives a little bit of description of what the Oathkeepers are. Excuse me. I'm coughing in disgust. The Oathkeepers are a large but loosely organized collection of right-wing anti-government extremists who are part of the militia movement, which believes that the federal government has been co-opted by a shadowy conspiracy that is trying to strip American citizens of their rights. Though the Oathkeepers will accept anyone as members, what differentiates them from other anti-government extremist groups is their explicit focus on recruiting current and former military, law enforcement, and first responder personnel. While there is a formal national leadership on the local level, many Oathkeepers are essentially self-organized and form official, semi-official, or informal groupings of Oathkeepers. The Oathkeepers were particularly active in 2020, participating in various anti-lockdown protests, providing vigilante-style security for local communities and businesses during the Black Lives Matter protests that spread in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, and warning about a potential takeover by the Marxist left during the 2020 election. The group gained notoriety for their armed participation in disputes between ranchers or miners and federal agencies, particularly in 2014 and 15. So they've been arrested in connection with a wide range of criminal activities, including various firearm violations, conspiracy to impede federal workers, possession of explosives, and threatening public officials. At least 9 associated with Oathkeepers have been charged with conspiracy in connection with January 6th and such. And if you could scroll down where it says impending takeover the U.S. by the Marxist left, I want to just show where this is really interesting. So They were okay. Yeah. The group gained notoriety. Okay. No, just a little further down. Further down. And if not, we'll just move on. I think we kind of get the sense.
They're not nice.
They're not nice, but I think if you look further down on the ADL website, you see a lot of where they are claiming that Marxism is going to take over, and that I guess it's going to be like they tie in Marxism and Islamism, so it's extremely xenophobic, extremely racist in that sense, right? So I think that's just one thing to kind of take away from some of that, right? They're not like this leftist group that is like saying, hey, we need to arm ourselves to protect ourselves from fascists or whatever. They literally are going after leftists in that instance and arming themselves in order to go after leftists. So thank you, Ludin. Yeah, so Twitter announced that it had banned the accounts belonging to the Oathkeepers for and so yeah, and that's it. Since the election of President Trump, the Oath Keepers have routinely stoked fears regarding the Democratic Party, stating that the party is in fact a Marxist Islamist organization, where an unholy alliance of communists and jihadists aim to defeat their common enemy, Western civilization. Here we go.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Yeah, exactly. I have a point. So the Oath Keepers leaders, Stuart Rhodes, has posted various live streams on the group's website claiming that undocumented immigrants are part of a larger plan to flood the U.S. with Democratic voters to shatter the American social system. Oath Keepers also claims that the reason Democratic leaders support gun control legislation is to allow for easy gun. So you get the point. So
Where?
yeah.
Did you say social systems? Where? Where are they? Here?
Yeah, I think the social systems have been destroyed.
I've been missing out apparently on. Wow, where's the fun at? They're hiding them from us or something, right?
Right.
They're very clearly racist, and our judicial system is very clearly racist, and colonizers suck. The lifeblood of everything. So, I mean, I think it's silly. Honestly, I think these people are fucking silly. Sorry. Because they don't understand any of the words come out of their mouth on a regular basis. And they're in this bubble of other people that are like, let's just all be, this way together. But none of them know what the fuck they're talking about anyway. And so it is really... I can't take these people seriously as a threat. I do not doubt for an instant. Like, how do you think Kyle Rittenhouse raised all of that money so quickly? These people are organized. They are, and they have privilege, and they have money, and they have security, and they have the cops on their side more often than not. I mean, I want everybody to know and fully understand that it is a fact that our police departments are founded on racism and white supremacy. And if you don't understand that, then I don't really know what to, you know what I'm saying? Like, good for you, I guess. I think I said something to that blonde chick once, and she was very upset, and then all of her little sycophants came after me, and I was like, whatever. But she was spreading the propaganda about, like, high crime and multiple offenders, and I'm like, I'd never hear you talking about, like, I don't know, socialism and maybe working towards that. So I don't know, man, it's a whole shit show. I went to Uvalde, and I'm just like, every single person in that town that I talked to was like, those motherfuckers better not even don't eat. And I'm like, I hope they're very uncomfortable by all of you. And if you want to help them you want them to be more uncomfortable, you want me to help you make them more uncomfortable, I will come back and I'll be happy to do so. Because I don't really think it's not so much that I hate the individual who's a police officer. I hate that they don't recognize that their job description is to harm people and profile them and be racist. That is the problem that we have, and that is why we can't continue working within the systems that we have any longer. It's incompatible with the future. It's incompatible. It's unsustainable. And that's why it's scary. You know, they're like, we're going to get more cops. We're going to get more IRS workers. And it's like, it's so very clearly like they're trying to just crush us under the boots of imperialism. They're trying to crush you and squeeze all of the resource out of you. If you don't believe me, look at what happened to First Peoples. Like, I'm Indigenous. They wanted us to die. They wanted us to die, and we didn't. You know, they thought they were being compassionate, and it's like, all you have to do is just look into history. That's why racists are so afraid of history. They don't want to be painted in a bad light. They don't want to come to terms with the truth. That sounds like a personal problem.
Well, and that's also why they they censor so many different history books at schools, or I mean, I think school history textbooks are notorious for not actually like really reviewing the sources that they're using. A lot of them use incorrect sources that have just been used without being scrutinized over the years and keep getting passed on, and then people just get a diluted viewpoint on history, and that's by design. I mean, it's funny, I'm actually reading Howard Zinn's book, People's History of America, right? And
yes.
I mean, I started reading it like a few years ago, but like I got distracted. It's such a long book and you have to really stick with it, but I am going to finish it this time. I'm determined. But I think one of the things that really stood out to me is that people like factory owners, right, started really pushing for public education because they were like, we want our workers to have an education, but we want them to have, quote unquote, the right type of education, right? And that is to take orders, learn how to take orders, learn how to sit in a straight line, right? And so, and that, I think, really just shows where our education system still is to this day, right? Just enough for you to know. Yeah.
It was founded, like, it started with the church and things like that, right? It forced assimilation of Indigenous people, and I mean, it's really not a far stretch to just think about. I mean, I have 3 kids, and I have them. They're in public school, but they do it at home. So they're they know all of this already. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not new information, and their friends know this already, and their friends that are still in traditional school know all of these things already. For some reason, adults are a little bit harder to teach basic things, like, it's good to question, and it's good to do your own research, and you know what I'm saying, it's helpful. I don't like that stuff being framed as a right-wing specific element. It should be all people's, right? All people should have the ability to question things. And I think when you talk about those groups like the Proud Boys and all of those, like, basically racist white supremacist KKK lovers, they're indoctrinated. I mean, you could look at the source and they're like checking off all the boxes on how to indoctrinate people. I mean, if you can't wake up from that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a very purposeful thing, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They want us disconnected from each other as much as possible.
Definitely. I want to, Felice and ADC, I want to get your takes, but Luden, if you don't mind just putting up the map that shows where the Oath Keepers are throughout the U.S. So this is an interesting map on the Anti-Defamation League's website. It has the amount of Oath Keepers, also the amount of cops that are confirmed to be Oath Keepers. And I get the ones that are the darker the shade, the more that there are, right? So Texas, I'm shocked.
I like how it's blue because often it's Democratic cities that have the most brutal police forces. You know, what is the New York's guy, Eric Adams?
Yes,
Mm-mm.
yes.
Mhm.
45 law
When is
enforcement.
this? I'm sorry. When's the information from? Like what year?
This year, I believe, right,
Okay.
Felice?
Yeah, this was just reported on.
Yeah.
I think that they got this in October last year or something. Like they've had it for a little bit and they've gone through and put everything together.
So if you look at all of those states and the darker, right, the more concentration. Also think about the land resource extraction and the wealth from those regions.
Definitely.
I mean, what are
And their
cops for?
exports.
They're to protect the wealthy and their property, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I
Mhm.
again, yeah, they're all over the place, but I like being able to visualize the concentration and make the connection that there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
don't like this. This is so scary. It's just so many people. Like in South Carolina, I think the number is 600 in total. Yeah. And then it says,
Individuals,
yeah, that are signed up in the state.
okay. Mm-hmm.
And then it says law enforcement for us is only 5, but it's already come out that my area has one of those lovely law enforcement people who wanted to have a public speaking role in the group. So that's lovely that that's someone riding around here. Makes me feel so
Yeah.
safe.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like they're going after a lot of the policies are pretty much like they specifically target like disabled people, you know, also, and people with illness. And so that's just inherently very fash. So, in my opinion, there aren't nearly enough disability advocates. Like, you don't have to be disabled to be an advocate for disabled people. You know what I'm saying? Like, cops would not hesitate to knock somebody out of a wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if they're like on, like, when they're together, it's what their common goal is. They're against us, right? They're going to control us. We're the wayward citizens that they need to beat into submission. I mean, they wouldn't think twice about things like that. I think they're not individuals. They're little cults. Like they're all buddies and they do probably very weird, creepy shit together, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I'm not surprised by the numbers. Can you what's in Texas though? I can't, I'm on my phone. I can't even see what that says.
Okay, it says 3,301 altogether. 8 elected officials, 33 law enforcement, 10 military, and 7 first responders.
Well done.
And apparently Texas has the most.
Oh, I mean, yes. I wish that was a shocker, but it isn't. So yeah,
I think one that might be the most shocking if you don't think about the fact that law enforcement in California are all gangs anyway. If you don't think about that, when you think of like the most liberal progressive state, it's very interesting that California is also the same color as Texas because it's all the same thing. It's the double-edged sword. Is like the left and the right here are awful.
In my mind, I know people who are from California, and they're like, I wouldn't want to be in Texas, and I'm just like, that's fine, but I'd rather be here because I think I have more. I don't know. I think I have a better chance. Because with the whole Second Amendment rights discussions, and one of my opponents is like just using Uvalde as his like rallying cry and like so quickly folds under pressure to be like, oh no, I support Second Amendment rights, but then is like, I want to do gun buybacks, and it's like, I never waver. And I never have. Like, I think I was 6 years old when my dad took me out to like go practice shooting a gun. It was very normal. Like, it was, you know what I'm saying? Like, most parents I know own guns. Not most. No, honestly, most of them do. And like their kids know, they like teach them young because they're like, it's important. And what if you need to kill a deer, or like, this is a practical thing, you know what I'm saying? And I honestly, like, I wouldn't like feeling, especially like, we lost Roe v. Wade first, right? SB 8 was, what is it? It's over a year by now. And the way that made me feel, both as a provider, like as somebody who helps, you know, provide care to people, and also as a woman, I was just absolutely, I think it was just like something happened. And now every single time it's like more and more aware, like, oh, they're just trying to take every single one of your rights away. And not enough people are paying attention to it. And it's like, I can't scream it loud enough that, you know what I mean? Like, this is a situation, like, look at the graph, do whatever you have to do to come to terms with the fact that we do have to coalesce our power and start working together, because there are some very real threats out there, and just voting isn't going to cover it.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of which, were we going to show the particularly so this person who was in jail for 4 years for going to a protest. So this article here, interesting. And I don't know, Felice, do you have any sort of particular? So it's a long article. We'll start reading it. But I know, Felice, this was something that really grabbed your attention.
Pregnant, yes.
Yeah,
they won't.
Pregnant.
I read about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in South Carolina, just always showing out. Yeah, she was at a protest for racial justice. She was, you know, doing what she should be doing with her constitutional rights. And now she's in jail, going to have her child and everything. I just had a baby a month ago. And I can't imagine even being a little bit pregnant in jail.
Yeah.
And
it's a reality for a lot of women, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, it's funny that you said that, because that's a thing happening now as well. Like, women are, with Roe v. Wade, getting locked up just for minor drug offenses so they can have their babies safely. For this, though, her name is Brittany Martin, and she's 34, and she was found guilty this spring of breaching the peace in a high and aggravated manner over comments she made to the police during a protest. 4 years.
You know, depending on how South Carolina feels like handling this, but I know for a fact that will not go well. That will not go over well for them. They better consider letting her go, because they know for a fact that their police do worse than what she did. Her brother, actually, or her relative, I think, died from police brutality. I think that's part of her story, and where her activism began. She lost somebody, you know. And I think, you know, it seems pretty clear they're trying to make an example of her, but it's a really bad. I know that that's not going to work out. And I do advocate for her sentence. I honestly think she should be free already. She served enough time, you know. She has rights, and they're being denied to her by a very clearly racist system. And I hope she gets out, and I hope she sues the shit out of the state for the way they treated her, you know.
I hope so.
I would donate to her legal fund today, because that's what needs to happen, you know what I'm saying? And we can't get anything done without public pressure. It has to be there, and it has to be sustained.
The sad thing
I
is,
think
around here, though, it's not being talked about much. It seems to, like, on Twitter and, like, our bubbles, it seems like it's a big deal, but it's not. Like, it's been on the local news maybe once. It's not being talked about at all. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of support in the area at the moment. I just
that
think
needs
because
to
people don't
change.
know. Yeah, I think people don't know, and then
And you got a lot of Oathkeepers over there, so
yeah, especially in Colombia, I'm sure. But I think that a lot of the times people, especially if they're farther left than liberal in my area specifically, it's very, scary to basically like go out and be like, hey, I believe in socialism and I believe all these other things that people have in their brain that is a bad thing. It's been completely like they've been brainwashed to think that socialism, communism, bad, no matter what comes after that, even if they agree with you. So I think that's another thing that's been happening a lot more recently is people for some reason has been keeping their mouths shut in the South, which is shocking. But it's weird.
I think that you're touching on a really important subject, actually, because again, if you are going through your organizing from strictly political capability, you're not going to get very far. Politics and religion are those things that you really don't we can go eat lunch together without having to argue. And even with some liberals, you can bridge that divide by doing something useful. So if you just have an event at a public park and touch on some of these subjects, have somebody moderating it, like, hey, we're going to try and be respectful to each other. It's fine. Feel how you need to feel. I really think that whole conflict resolution portion of people has been fairly lost. It's like been a fairly lost art. But like anybody that's had to work in a really difficult environment has those skills. They just don't know that they have those skills. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't until you put it into practice that you understand how to use them really and use them well. So I want to try my best to get people to not feel discouraged. Like you don't even have to have a goal in mind. Like I want everybody to agree that this woman should be free, but you should have an intention to bring awareness, which is fair, and I think if people are respectful, they'll respect that. And there are the people that are loud and reactionary and against growth. They are loud for a reason because nobody wants to listen to them. And so you don't have to give them your space. Like you don't have to give them your time and energy. You can do very well without them. But how you deal with them is important. And that's a skill that a lot more people need to learn, I think. And you won't learn that skill until you've kind of gone out there and tried your hand at it a few times. And it can be, it can be small. Like I've got 5 people that I know care about this issue too. What can we do as this little group? You know what I'm saying? Like go to a cafe, start talking about it so that other people try to make friends, get them involved. It's this pandemic has made it really hard for people to socialize in a comfortable space, I think. And it is hard to do that, but if it's a nice day outside, like why not? Why can't you make time for things like that? If it's important to you, you'll feel better and more productive as a person if you can kind of do that. And again, like I know you just had a baby, right? Like you can't be out spending 7 hours, like at a table, like trying to get people to sign on to a political party. But you could definitely have like a, lunch with some friends or something like that, where you can at least talk about what you're passionate about. And that's really important. I think that we need to be better at respecting each other for, and having that support for each other too. It comes with it all. Like you want to have a community, respect has to be there. Like why would you be in any relationship with anybody that's not respectful to you? You shouldn't.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't go with I'm a socialist, hi. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, do you like libraries too? Great. Like, oh, do you hope Social Security doesn't run out? Me too. You know, like that's the kind of way that you get people to get on board with things
Right.
without having to make it divisive. Like, you know, the media and politics polarizes us on purpose. And we all have to work around it.
Yes. Absolutely. So I want to switch now to, speaking of divisiveness, I think one of the things that has not been divisive, right, has been a lot of the strikes that have been happening, a lot of the unionization that has been happening, right? And so, which brings us to labor, right? That's a better transition, right? That's a much better transition than the one I did
I like
before.
it.
Yeah,
You're doing great.
I'm proud of myself. Yeah. So, as you all know, we had Labor Day that happened on Monday, which is an American holiday because, everyone else celebrates International Workers' Day. But, the U.S. is like, nah, you're not going to do that. Let's just have our own little, yeah. So, wanted to just show some of the clips from what happened from this past Labor Day. And so, Ludin, if you want to bring up that first video.
And this is just the beginning of bull. So I just quit my job. I'm finally free. I'm literally 17 years old and I'm stuck in the Dunkin' by myself. And this is just the beginning of bullshit that has happened at the store.
Yeah. So basically, 17-year-old was left alone at Dunkin'. And so this is what some of the stuff that sparks the protests, right? And it's funny because I've always been saying, so I live in Boston, right? And I would say the whole Starbucks unionization effort definitely has made its way to Boston. It's pretty strong here. But Boston is known more for Dunkin', right? There's far more Dunkin' or Dunkin' Donuts per se than there are in Starbucks. And so I've always kind of wondered myself, like, okay, hopefully like this energy kind of, can spread over to Dunkin' Donuts.
Hell yeah, more Dunkin' Donuts unions. I mean, listen, this is a very exploitive, very capitalism. I mean, that who knows what other horrible days that girls had to deal with. So
yeah,
I think Dunkin' Donuts unions, honestly, 100%. I like Dunkin' better than Starbucks. And I would absolutely boycott them if in support of strikers. So
I am not a fan of coffee, but I imagine if I did like coffee, I'd probably prefer Dunkin' just because Starbucks just does. I mean, there's so much fancy stuff on the coffee that I'm just like, I don't really know.
You've lost everything though by saying you don't like coffee. It doesn't matter, you rude person. How do you not like coffee?
It never had a good effect for me. It always had the opposite effect on me, honestly. It always made me more tired. So I think because it
you're
like
probably more
dehydrated
Italian
me.
than I am or something, because that's a thing. Like Italians,
Really?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be to help you digest your food after a meal. You have that before bed is an espresso. So you're just not as much mixed up as I am living here in America.
I'm also half Irish, so maybe I'm just kind of like, fuck it, I'll have my tea instead.
The fact that it's not alcohol is making it not good for you.
Damn, but yeah, there's not enough alcohol in it for me. Fuck coffee. Yeah.
That's why you need Bailey's.
Yeah,
Bailey's, Kahlua, everything. Just mix it all up with it. But Dunkin', yeah, y'all.
I mean, I think so. It doesn't take a lot of effort. I mean, no. I'm sorry. I did not mean that. It does take a lot of effort to unionize, but it also takes coordination. to unionize. And I think it's really fun as like an outside person who's like, I don't work here. I got no skin in the game, but I totally think that you guys should unionize. And I would be happy to support you if you did, because I think people are very timid to get the ball rolling, you know, a little bit of support, a little gentle pat on the back, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got this. And so, yeah, I try to, oh God, I don't want to be a stalker, but I really want more Amazon workers to unionize down in Texas, because, like, we're such a big state. We get our shit together. The hospital I used to work at is unionizing right now, and I'm, like, so fucking excited for them. It's great. It's great, because it's traditionally been a very demanding place to work at. So I'm really happy for that. I'm so excited for the labor movement. I mean, it's been ongoing for a couple years solid now, right? Like, I think the pandemic kind of sparked that. People were like pushed to their limit, like, fuck this, I can't deal with this. I think I reached our limit. I'm so sorry. I feel like all of our videos get, I'm sorry about that. Anyway,
No
yes.
worries.
But they reached their limit. They said, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, you have every right to stand up for yourself as a worker. Everybody should feel more empowered to do that. The place you work for would be absolutely worth nothing if it weren't for you as a worker. And that's so important to know. And I'm really glad that more people are realizing it.
Yeah.
I think it came from the being the essential workers during the pandemic was where the big thing is this is who's actually running the place, not the asshole manager who comes in and tells you what to do. It's actually the workers. And when they were made essential, even though they weren't paid a fucking dime, because everyone, the politicians are a piece of shit, but they were proven that these are essential workers. So by them being said there was essential, that means that give them a little kick in the ass to go, you know what? If we're essential, why aren't we making better money? Why aren't we making a living wage? And then
oh my God,
more
I
people
want
like
to
you.
see a general strike happen. There's going to be one on the 30th. There's a general strike happening on the 30th. And that needs to be, yes, of this month. It needs to be a more frequent thing, because once you inconvenience, so like when the airlines went on strike, like they were able to kind of come to terms. Honestly, like everybody's just asking for a seat at the table. That is not unreasonable at all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if the Oathkeepers were so scared of Marxism, then they would support unions. Because that's honestly like, this is us remaining peaceful. You know? That's where we are at this moment. I remember we were just talking about that today. I had to go get fitted for an N95 mask. We have to do it all the time. Like before COVID, like we had tuberculosis and all these other things we had to deal with, which is, you know, obviously like you put yourself at risk because you're trying to take care of other people, and that came with the territory. But with the pandemic, like the amount of numbers like was like so intense. It was so hard. But we were reflecting on that today when we were doing our mask testing. Like, oh, do you remember like saving your mask for a week? And we're like, we made it. Like, and it was such a weird thing to happen. But I mean, that's something that we all shared. You know, I think collectively everybody kind of experienced it a little bit differently, but it affected us all. And so just because your experience may have been different from somebody else's doesn't mean you can't work towards the same things. And yes, essential workers, like you have the power.
Yeah. So just want to highlight a couple things on this screen here. So Amazon was not Amazon. Duncan was caught going against many child labor laws. So they permitted 14 to 50-year-old employers to work more than 3 hours a day on a school day, work past 7 p.m. on a school night, work more than 18 hours a week during a regular school week, work more than 8 hours on a non-school day, and work past 9 p.m. during summer breaks. And, I think what's interesting is they say up here, franchisee paid $25K penalty, entered enhanced compliant agreement.
25K?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay.
So, I don't, but that's the thing. So this is something that and I wish I kind of was able to do a little bit more background, because I know that obviously when it comes to a lot of these, fast food joints or whatever, they have different franchisors, right, that are kind of almost independent owners, and they kind of they kind of are that sort of layer in between corporate and everyone else. And so I'm just trying to wonder, like, who actually is paying that $24K, right? And is it the people who
Oh.
are, yeah,
We've
what I
been
mean?
looking at that.
No, they would never. They would never.
But the
Just real quick,
24
I want to make it very clear. I do not get paid a salary. I like this run for governor. I do not get compensated for it at all because I'm a Green Party candidate. I can't even, like, we don't take PACs, none of that stuff. And it's just so funny to think about people trying to speak to the struggle without actually experiencing the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I think of $25,000, I mean, first, that's like crippling amount of debt, right? That would send any reasonable person like pretty much into an early grave. And you think about the ruling class and how that's nothing to them. It's really just a matter of principle. They're offended that, they can't continue to fully exploit as they wish to. I mean, so that's the whole thing. Like, capitalists, if you're from a wealthy family, but you're not in the billionaire wealthy elite class, I am not talking about you. Like, there's a whole difference. There's a whole difference in what money is. And I think poor people don't really genuinely understand what that money looks like, what that money buys you, how little power you have compared to that. And it's numbers that people can't really even wrap their minds around. Most of us are struggling paycheck to paycheck, trying to pay our bills, keep a roof over our heads, things like that. So you think about these billionaires, like, they're not upset that they have to pay a fine. Like, they know that the fine would never inconvenience them, really, because the laws are designed for them to benefit from them. So, like, they're like, oh, we're gonna fine that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything at all. I can tell you from living on the Gulf Coast my whole life, fines mean shit. Okay, they're gonna keep doing what they were doing before. The only way to stop them from doing that is from the workers to organize and withhold their labor to make shit go the way they want it to. That's the only way. They'll just keep doing it because they have unlimited capital. They're barely starting to understand the limitations of what our earth can provide.
Mm-hmm.
So, you talk about these fines and it's just like, how is that even newsworthy? That means nothing to them.
Well, the newsworthy piece, and it was just, and because it's in small wording there, reading it up, was the fact that 3 locations had 39 miners that were involved in them taking advantage of that. So that's where it really comes in, is a 24 grand or 25 grand to affect the lives of 39 kids.
Right. And for how long? And how bad were their experiences, right? Like, were they like crying in the bathroom because they were overwhelmed? Did they have to deal with like aggressive, customers? Like, it's really, it is sad because you've got all these like religious pro-lifers that are like, the babies, the children, but they don't care about, generally brown children or kids that are still not adults, but, I mean, and the trend towards child exploitation. I personally started working at a job when I was 15 years old. And I had to, my folks were not doing too well financially. So that was a situation for me. And I wouldn't want that on other kids. Like, we're supposed to be innovative. We're supposed to be leading the path towards, education, and like every time we were missing the mark and nobody's talking about it. We're missing the mark, we're failing them educationally, we're failing them with our social programs, we're failing them with their medicine, with everything. And I mean, there's no concern for that. There's no concern for life and quality of living beyond ideals. So that's the trajectory, that's the path that we're on right now. That's what we have to stop, right? It's good that the labor movement's happening, but there's also this other trend, like there's the child exploitation. I mean, they just had that trial. They didn't release any of the names from that trial that I'm not going to say anything about right now, but that's also something that's been a very real fact for a very long time that most people know about, but the problem is, what are people going to do about it?
Just usually just sweep it under the carpet and hope it goes away. And I just want to stop there with just comrades who you're watching here. If you're wondering what a politician is going to do when they get into office, Delilah's proving here that one of the only politicians that's not coming from a pack, not coming from wealth, has actually lived in a impoverished state, understands what it's like to live in poverty, understands what it's like living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what we need as our government officials. We need more people that have lived real life and not this fantasy world of the silver spoon or the inherited wealth. We need more people like Delilah that can go in and be a voice for change. And that's like, I mean, you're an amazing person to begin with, but you would be even more amazing in the government to be a voice for the people, because we don't have that right now. And just, I wanted to take a moment there just to tell people, if you're watching this and you're in Texas, this is the person you vote for. I know it doesn't seem like, oh, it's not the normal thing to do. Well, fuck, the normal thing to do doesn't work. So we need to do something different. Something different's actually would be really good and could bring affect change for the state.
Thank you for saying that. Oh, you made my face leak.
I'm sorry for bringing the dust into your room, but yeah, it just had to be said. I mean, it's this is what I know. My family discusses this on a daily basis. What is the problem with our political systems? And it doesn't matter here in Canada, anywhere in Western nations. The problem is, it is the elite wealthy that are holding the power, that are in politics. If we can bring even one or two people that actually have lived a life as a regular person, if we go back to that show that we can't talk about, but the just being that person that's actually lived life and not had every advantage, they could speak on behalf of people that need that help right now. Not just, oh, well, it's just a number and we don't know if we can afford it. Well, it's this people. We're not talking about numbers anymore. We're talking about people. You talk about people when it comes to, oh, vote blue or you won't get it, or we won't get in, or we're going to be a disaster, or vote red because you don't want blue. It doesn't matter. Blue, red, gives a shit. Just vote for the right person and vote for someone who's going to bring in change. Because if you don't bring in change, we got the same thing, and capitalism is just going to eat itself, and we're all not going to survive.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a sustainability thing, honestly. And the red and blue parties are just two wings of the same corporate bird, honestly. And I've met really sweet people that are like, I'm a Democrat, and their party just like eats them alive. Like, they're not supposed to be effective. You know what I mean? They're just supposed to like take people's attention, and they use it to take over communities, basically. And some of the people that I've met in Texas, they call them the pulpit pushers, because the local politicians come by and they try to organize through the church, because they know that they have a dedicated congregation, and the exploitation knows no bounds. There's no end. Capitalism is cancer that's killing us by the millions, and it has been for a really long time. And I think that I don't care what you call yourself. You should at least be able to identify that you don't want other people to suffer. It's that simple. And I know that these people tell you that they care and they're coming from a genuine place, but they really aren't. And if you looked at the money and you looked at the receipts, you would learn very quickly that they have no intention of doing what they say they will, because they don't have anything to risk. They have nothing to lose. You know, me personally, I mean, like I've already almost lost my job from sticking to my morals. So yeah, it's not something that is common, I will say. And I think, you know, if you want to get involved politically, that's great, but I would much rather somebody get more involved in their community and advocating for people outside themselves to be, you know, for I think we all need to be well. We all need to have better standards of living and not let people say, oh well, I can't help you right now, because they're not forced to do that, you know. But thank you for supporting me, and that hurt my face and my feelings a little bit, but thank you. That was really sweet.
My
Yeah, it's
pleasure.
hard. Like I did my
Um,
makeup and you guys just
Yes, I always can be blamed, and that's fine. I will take that blame because it's well worth it. Because, like you said, you're a special person, and we need more people like you to bring the change.
I completely
Thanks.
agree. And you do have a thing about making people cry on this show, don't you? Is
Yeah,
this the
I'm
second,
pretty
third
good at
time,
it.
something like that?
Yeah,
You're
it's
just
the third time I
honest.
made someone cry. Yep.
Wow.
It's the
uh,
honesty though.
well,
It's the honesty without fault. And I tell people I'm either angry or I'm passionate, but it's going to bring emotion. So you're either going to be pissed off at me, you're going to be happy and laughing at me, or you're going to cry. So I'm going to
mm,
bring some sort of emotion every time I'm on, and it's about connection. And like you said, we have to connect with the right people. And with the PVN, I believe our team is the right people, and that we can all bring great things, and people like you, Delilah, it just adds even more greatness to our network.
well,
Thank you.
thank
You.
you, Delilah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on, Delilah. What sort of things do you have coming up?
So apparently there's a debate that I was not invited to in my home where I'm from, by the way, mind you, I know. Yeah, I was born in Brownsville, Texas, and that's where the Rio Grande Valley is. Yes, and that's where the two mediocre white men are going to be talking. So we're going to be out there doing our own thing, trying to be as loud and obnoxious as possible at the end of the month. Yeah, so I did go to Camp Dada, and before that I went to Uvalde. We had a event at the local library there. We added books to their collection. We had a water slide for the kids, and that was really cool and fun. And yeah, I'm gonna go back down and do that in September. And then October, I think I have a lot of meet and greets and events that we're gonna try and get our name out there. Honestly, there's a lot of people that still don't know that there are other options on the ballot. So as much as we can to just circulate that there are more than two options, and these corporate parties don't own you, and you don't owe them your vote, and you can do as you damn well please. And I do want people to vote and exercise their rights as much as possible. So any help I can get getting the word out that I'm running would be appreciated. And yeah, we're gonna do what we can. Well, we can.
Awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again, and yeah, Felice, ADC, anything coming up on either of your ends?
I'm going to be releasing a paper on our Substack about the history of corrections. Probably next week, I'm hoping. And next week also, I'm going to be putting out a video on our current climate crisis. So keep an eye out for that on here.
Cool.
All
Good.
right. ADC.
Yeah, we're going to be launching ADC Talking Truth by the end of the month. We've got Ask Out. I was a former territory manager with Canadian Blood Services. I had a horrible experience. I know a lot of dirty secrets of that organization. And there's a couple of organizations there that have called out them for trying to start a private plasma clinic. After they've just been collecting plasma from volunteer donors. So there's a fight there. We're trying to get them on. Hopefully we'll get those people on. If not, there's a couple of members of our group that I will get on for the first episode to talk about some conspiracy around 9/11, because I know what I feel about what happened, and I know there's a few people in our group that have their thoughts as well. So if we can't talk about the Canadian Blood Services and the Canada's Lifeline, we will talk conspiracy and 9/11. So looking forward to that. And then we're going to be we're going to be talking truth on everything. So anyone wants to come on and talk the truth, it's going to be open forum, and it's not going to be one of those hit pieces. We're not bringing you on so we can nail you and get you in trouble or anything. But if you want to blow the whistle on something, yeah, we can talk about that and give you the platform. So that is at ADC Talking Truth, or you find me on Twitter at ADC on PVN.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Take care.